We're Ayin Bays, just the bottom of Ayin Aleph with Bays, Mamish in the bottom. Ayin Aleph with Bays, one line up. The Gemara in the middle is a side subject, a tangent about the Mila, and the Gemara said that Priya, the mitzvah of Priya, which is also uncovering. The word Parah means to uncover. So the Horad means that even if the foreskin is cut already and uncovers the organ, but the corona, but still there's still a membrane that has to be also revealed. So it says that we learn it out from Yoshua. Over there it says Vishuv. This word Shuv. And then the Gemara said that the word Shainis was another point to say Tzitzin Hamak, some strands of skin that also have to be removed. But once the Gemara talks about the pasuk in Yoshua, it says over there that Bnei Israel did not circumcise in the 40 years in the Midbar. It says that by Mitzrayim over there they circumcised. It says they weren't allowed to korban Pesach, and it doesn't say openly in the pasuk that they circumcised, but that's might have been when it happened. But during the 40 years in the Midbar, they didn't circumcise, and then when they came to Eretz Yisrael, maybe that's another Gemara someplace, but here it doesn't say. And I forgot, there might be such a Gemara. But here the Gemara says they didn't circumcise during the 40 years in the Midbar. The Gemara wants to know why not. Why did they not circumcise? That's the bottom of the page, one line up. How come they didn't circumcise in the Midbar? The pasuk says openly that the 40 years in the Midbar, they didn't circumcise. So the Gemara says two reasons. Since they were traveling, so it would have been dangerous to circumcise, even though there were places where they stayed stationed for many years. I think it says one place they were 38 years, but they didn't know. Every day they thought they might be traveling. So they never were able to circumcise, because if they'd have to travel the next day, it would be dangerous for the child.
I would have done different. I mean, why didn't they do Mila? And if Kosh Baruch Hu tells them to move, either they'll ask him, are we supposed to move?
The question you're asking is, how come I didn't ask Hashem, are we going to be here for 8 days? Are we going to be here for a while here that we should be able to do it? It seems that, well, why didn't ask Hashem if they, it seems that, I don't know why they didn't ask if they're going to be here for a number of time. Or that's also called Chol Shadar, to be in the Midbar is also called on the road. I don't know, even if they're not moving, I don't know, but maybe not. But how come it doesn't say it was a time on them that they didn't circumcise in the Midbar. It doesn't say that it was a complaint. So they did the right. If it was not, then maybe.
But they weren't traveling. The Malach came and wanted to kill her.
Malone, they were by Malone. They stopped.
Weren't traveling.
So then there was a Malone. There was a stop. They could have stopped until he would have been healed, maybe. Okay, that's what the Gemara says. I'm done. That in the Midbar for the 40 years there was no northern wind that was blowing, and the Gemara says that a northern wind is healthy, and it would have been necessary in order to heal. They would have had the northern wind, and there was no northern wind. So the regular issue of traveling, that maybe they would have stopped, or other issues, they could have done it, but the fact that there was no northern wind, that's why it was dangerous to circumcise. The Tani Kalos and Shanim Shahayu Yisrael B'Midbar, Lanash V'Lam Luchsfonis, all the 40 years, the northern wind didn't blow. And then the Gemara on the side point says, why not? Why didn't the northern wind blow? My time, one of two reasons, either because Hashem was angry at them, so it was a kind of a punishment, like in Nidoi. So then Hashem didn't give them that chesed of having the northern wind blowing, which is supposed to be a calm and good and healthy wind. Another reason might be because the Anani cover shouldn't spread out, shouldn't disperse. That means that even though the Anani cover we would say is miraculous and it wouldn't be affected by a wind, here the Gemara seems to say that yes, that if there'd be a northern wind, so then it would disperse the clouds of glory. So therefore there was no northern wind. But there was a side issue. They weren't able to do a circumcision because they didn't have that benefit. Amra Papa, the Gemara learns out a side point over here that they have to have this good weather in order to be able to circumcise, or else it's dangerous. On a day that there's a cloudy day, or a day that there's a southern wind, Rashi says, so not to circumcise and also not to let blood, because it's dangerous. You have to have the good weather. I don't know what the good weather means, but here it says that a cloudy day is not good. And if it's a southern wind, which also is a strong wind, so then not to do something which might be dangerous, not to do circumcision, not to let blood, because it's Adam. But the Mari ends off, but now that most people do it, the Rabbim do it. The word dash is like the threshing on it, they seem to be stepping on it, that means that the custom is to do it. So there's a pasuk that says, Shem B'Sayim Hashem, Hashem guards the fools. So there's such a thing that the Gemara says a couple of times that even the people are doing dangerous things, but if everyone's doing it, Shosam B'Sayim Hashem, I think that there's another added condition. Not only everyone's doing it, but it's something which is difficult to be careful from. It's not easy. It's not easy that you can wait till a good weather. Another place where the Gemara says, Shosam B'Sayim Hashem, there is such what are we going to say? Such a protection that Hashem takes care of the fools, even if a person is doing something which is dangerous. And this, the right weather exactly. So we're not. Maybe we shouldn't do milah many days, but you may continue doing it because dashu barab and most people do it. Yes.
It could be like what you call it. Maybe don't say when it's a little mitzvah.
I don't think so. I think the Gemara has other places also. I don't think because there's a mitzvah there, about 5 places. I have written down. I don't have it right now, but I have the places. The Mama comes with the Gemara says Shem B'Sayim Hashem. I think we can check over there. I don't think that's by mitzvah.
Then another subject is if someone knows the sakana, that also say Shem B'Sayim Hashem.
I don't know. I don't know. It means if a person will don't know, here the case is not hard to know. Yom Ha'Diba, Yom Ha'Shu, so they know if it's a cloudy day. Doesn't sound like that's the point if they know or not. Since everybody's doing it, then it's difficult to be careful. So even if you happen to know, that's what it sounds like. But okay, would need more of a hagdara, more of a definition. When do you say the setter of Shem B'Sayim Hashem that Hashem guards the fools? When are we allowed to be fools? That's the subject. There's this. Yes, please.
Where was the end of the brisa?
Which brisa?
The Tanya. Didn't we start?
Oh yeah, right over there, 2 lines. The Tanya was Shalanash Vilhem Ruach Tzfonis. That was the end. The Tanya, Kalosan Abram Shana Shoy Yisrael B'Midbar, Lanash Vilhem Ruach Tzfonis. Then the Mar said My Taima. Then the Mar said Hilkach. The next brisa, Tana Rabbanan. There shouldn't be a 2 dots over here because we're still in the middle. Tana Rabbanan, Kalosan Abram Shana Shoy Yisrael B'Midbar, Lahaya Yom Shalanash Vilhem Ruach Tzfonis B'Chatzia Laila. Even though we just said that the northern wind didn't blow in the daytime, and that was something which was a problem, and they couldn't do milah because of that. Maybe it was because Hashem was angry at them. But the way Rashi explains, the northern wind always blows at midnight, and even in the midbar, when Hashem was angry at them, still the ruach tzfonis did blow at midnight. What does that have to do with anything? That's the pasuk about chatzos that Hashem did makas b'choros. Hashem struck the firstborn in Mitzrayim. What does it have to do with the point of the northern wind blowing midnight? My Talmuda, what do we learn from this? That the Eis Ratzon Milsahi, that there is such a thing called the Eis Ratzon. There's a time that Hashem shows favor, and that's a something. Milsahi, it's a something. So I think the pshat is that midnight, that the fact that Hashem always makes a ruach tzfonis, that is a favorable thing that Hashem is doing for us. So the fact that we find that Chatzos, Hashem chose to be Makas B'choros because it was a Eis Ratzon. I don't think it goes the other way. What does the Gemara mean to say? Because Makas B'choros happened at that time, so always Chatzos is Eis Ratzon, and that's why the northern wind blows in midnight, or the other way, that there's a kriyos in the world that Hashem made that Chatzos is Eis Ratzon, that's when the midnight, that's why the northern wind blows, and that's the reason why Hashem made the Makas B'choros should be at midnight, because it was Eis Ratzon. I think that's what the Gemara is saying. For the Jews, yeah, not for the Egyptians, but for the Jews, there was a time that Hashem favored them and struck their enemies and killed the firstborn. And you learn out from here that Eis Ratzon is a thing. That there is a thing called time. Don't think that all times are the same. Some people say, well, places are the same. Daven wherever you are, all places are the same. Hashem is every place. Hashem is all times. But it's not true. Hashem, it's true. But Hashem says there are certain times that are more favorable. Times, places. So there is such a thing as Eis Ratzon. So if there's a time that we find there's Eis Ratzon, so we should utilize it. That's why the minig is to say Tikun Chatzos or whatever the other times that it says about the thirds of the night, the Mishmoros of light in order to be Mekonin on the Korban. There are times that are called the Eis Ratzon. So we are supposed to utilize the Eis Ratzon.
And the Hollywood Jews also could have died or did die then?
They didn't die by Makas B'choros, no.
They didn't?
You're talking about maybe Makas Choshech, maybe. They didn't die by Makas B'choros. Makas B'choros, the Jews didn't die.
Well, Makas Choshech was before.
Maybe that's what you're referring to. But by B'choros, by Makas B'choros, only no Jews died.
Okay.
So here should be the 2 dots. If you want to take the 2 dots from before and transfer it over here, here's where the end of the sugyas. And we just finished the sugya that spoke about Orel, and then the sugya also about Orel. The whole parak is about Orel. And yesterday's sugya was about Orel Shalom Mano. And the last sugi was about oral makabel azah, that he's able to get sprinkled with the paraduma water, and because of that, we came into a side subject which brought us into the next subject about priya. You mentioned that pasuk priya, and then that was all a side subject. And now the next sugya starts over here. Amar Rav Huna. Devar Torah, Moshe, new sugya, altogether new. Amar Rav Huna, Devar Torah, Moshe Chachal B'Truma, and when the frame goes, we will love if they shnira korel. A Moshech is the word Moshech means stretched, and the point is that he's really a circumcised, means the foreskin was cut, and he's not an oral anymore. But the skin around the corona was stretched in a way that now it covers it again. It means that it's not the original foreskin; it's an artificial kind of a foreskin that they stretched. Either the Ritva says, Ashwal I saw brings down a Ritva that either was manually or artificially an operation of some sort to stretch the skin around in order to make him look like uncircumcised, or it was a disease that caused it to happen. But whatever it is, right now there is some kind of skin that is covering the corona, maybe, and he looks like an oral. He looks like he's uncircumcised.
What was the word stretched?
Mashuch.
Oh, mashuch, like
To be moshech is to pull. So mashuch is a person who has been pulled. It means that his skin has been stretched in a way that he looks like a uncircumcised. So is he circumcised? He really is circumcised. There is no foreskin. It's not a foreskin. So he says with the Raisa, he's considered circumcised and he wouldn't be able to eat truma. But with Rabbanan, they made a gzera, since he looks like an oral, near a oral, so therefore he should. We have the chumras with Rabbanan that he should be like an oral, that an oral is not allowed to eat truma.
It's huge chiddush because if anyone's going to see him, Arles only to be in the mikveh, and also but you're not supposed to look at someone in the mikveh.
I don't know if it means that. I don't know if that's the point. That someone's going to see him. I don't know if that's kind of Mara sign. It means it's similar to an oral, and therefore they made it similar to an oral is also like an oral. I don't know if it means that someone's going to see him and they'll think that he's an oral and he's eating truma. I don't think that's what the Gemara means. So that was, this sugya today is going to be a mashuch.
We should say daimala.
I think that's what it means. I think that's what it means. The subject today is going to be mashuch. That's today's subject. Mashuch means a person who is really circumcised, but the fact that the skin has been stretched around, it looks like he's uncircumcised. And Rav Huna is the first one that speaks about it, and he says that with the rice he's considered circumcised. He will be able to eat truma for whatever. That's the ramification we're talking about. Is he allowed to eat truma? And with Rabbanan, with the rice he'd be allowed to. With Rabbanan, he's not allowed to because he looks like an oral. Meisvei, kasha and Rav Huna is an amora. Now a kasha from a brayse. Meisvei moshe tzarach shimo. The brayse says that a moshe has to circumcise again. He has to get rid of that skin that makes him look like a uncircumcised. So right away the Gemara answers, Rabbanan. I didn't say that the Brisa doesn't say that, but the Brisa it's not good just as he has to. That means Rabbanan he has to. So it's not a kasha of Huna. And the Gemara is going to right away say that what did the questioner think? What do you see in this Brisa? It doesn't say much. It doesn't say that he's awesome of the Brisa to eat truma. So why did we attack Rav Huna? Rav Huna is very good. He says that the Brisa he may eat truma, but Rabbanan not. And here it says he has to circumcise. Makes a lot of sense. So that's what the Gemara explains now. With the korila, my korila, the one who asked the question, what did he think? What did he think that he saw in this brisa? It just says that he has to circumcise. Rav Huna also says he has to circumcise. That's what he said. But Rabbanan, he cannot eat truma. So what do you see? What do you see here that's mashma that with the brisa he cannot eat truma? The answer is katoi b'seifa. The reason why he made a mistake is because the continuation of the brisa. You're right. These words alone wouldn't have caused him any question. It doesn't say that as the brisa here, but the continuation of the brisa, if we see the rest over there, it does sound like it's the Raisa. It sounds very much like it's the Raisa. That's what I meant to ask. And the Gemara is going to answer that's Midrabanan. What does it say in the Sefer? Rav Yehuda Omer lo yomu. The Tanna Kama said he should circumcise, but Rav Yehuda said lo yomu. Let's maybe also just Rav Yehuda argues on that and says he should not because it's dangerous. He should not circumcise. Tanna Kama says he should recircumcise, and Rav Yehuda says don't because it's dangerous. Amulo. The Tanna Kama said to Rav Yehuda, "V'lo harbi molo b'mei ben kuziva v'lidu b'anam abanos." He's not dangerous because there were many people in the days of Ben Kuziva. Ben Kuziva is the person we call Bar Kochba. And just like Habusa told me that, it's interesting that the word Bar Kochba, the name Bar Kochba is not in Chazal. Bar Kochba is what the Romans call him. And the Christians, I don't know how, we probably got the name because of the Rach Kochov Miyakov, but the Gemara doesn't call him Bar Kochba. The Gemara calls him Ben Kuziva always. And he was during times of Beitar, that the Hebrew Beitar, and there was a big war. Rabbi Kiva thought that he's Mashiach, but then there was that he's not. But anyway, for some reason, we don't know the history, but over there it says there were many people that were meshuchim, that their orla, that their mila was covered up artificially by pulled skin. Rashi says that the goyim did it to them against their will. But anyway, it says that they recircumcised and they had sons and daughters. They lived and they were able to even procreate. So it's not dangerous. He's saying that it's dangerous to have a meal after he was mashuch. So they say, no, we have facts, historic cases that it was not dangerous. Shenema, but the Brisa continues that the Rabbanan say there's a pasuk, himol himol afilu me'apamim. Since there's a pasuk over here, himol himol, like it's a double term, it could have just said himol or himol. What does it say, both of them? So it means again and again, even if he has to circumcise many times, that means that even if they would have stretched the skin and he had the foreskin was removed the first time, still you have to circumcise again. So they bring a pasuk over here. That's why the questioner thought that it says here that is the rice, it brings a pasuk. Even brings a second pasuk, the Omer, another pasuk. Yes, we see a far. The Rabbi says Hamashuch. Over there talks about a person that in the Drash at least that he nullified. What's the word? Hafer nullified, or a better word than that. He thwarted the covenant.
Mhm.
And the Gemara is saying it's coming to say that it's somebody, even if he had a bris milah, but if he stretched the skin again in order to make himself look like he's not circumcised, that's also considered nullifying the covenant. So he has two psukim to say that even if he was mashuch, he still has to circumcise again. That's the brisa. So now we understand very well why the Gemara thought that brings psukim. The beginning of the brisa, the first word just says mashuch sarashim, or it wouldn't have been a kasha on Ravuna. Ravuna also says he has to circumcise. He just says that with the brisa he didn't have to. But since this brisa does bring psukim, himol yimol, especi hefar, so there would be very good reason to think the brisa means that as the brisa. That's why we asked the kasha on Ravuna. Before the Gemara continues, the Gemara does insert, why does the brisa have to have two psukim for? Why does the brisa bring two psukim to say that a mashach has to circumcise? That the first pasuk that says himol yimol wouldn't be such a proof that a mashach has to re-circumcise, because maybe it's coming to say something else, that even after he's circumcised, but there were still strands of skin that protrusions that were left, he has to cut away those strands of skin. But it wouldn't be a proof anything about a person who was circumcised and mashuch that he has to circumcise again. Yesterday, the Gemara brought a pasuk in Yeshua about this. That was the pasuk of Shulmo Husband Yisrael Shenis, but that's the pasuk in Yeshua. But here we're talking about a pasuk in the Torah. So maybe the pasuk of Himol is only coming to include the halacha that Sisan also makvin, but you wouldn't know the din of a mashuch. That's why the Bryce brings a second pasuk Tashma. It's BCFR over there. At least you see that a mashuch has to be circumcised. Anyway, this is the Bryce, and it does bring two psukim, and therefore the Gemara ends off. That's why the Maksha, the one who has the kasha, attacked Ravuna. The Bryce says psukim. Usavim the kanasav le'yachshas or Talmuda with the kasav nas le'Talmuda kra. The Bryce, since the Bryce brings psukim, so it's the Bryce. And that's why I say against Ravuna, who says that Moshe Medaraisa is a kosher nimo. Below he Rabbanan the Krolos Mach the Balman. The Gemara's answer said that says it's Rabbanan is saying that even though it brought psukim, it's only a remez, it's only a way to remember, or whatever you want to say. Asmachta means. So Ravuna still stands strong that with the Raisa a Moshe is considered circumcised, but with Rabbanan he shouldn't eat truma because he looks like he's not circumcised, and he should circumcise again in order to be able to eat truma. What happened so far? Ravuna said that a Moshe
it's always because it's done artificially.
It means there's no what is done. The mashach was artificial. It means it's just the foreskin. The foreskin is cut. It's cut already. The foreskin is already cut away.
Skin that like we can go over.
What is that?
If somebody just said his skin gets flabby and you cover the thing.
The Gemara talks someplace else. Not when it's flabby. The Gemara talks about someplace else in Masechah Shabbos. If he's I forgot the lashon of Gemara, but if he's chubby and the skin, you can't tell. You can't tell. But it's not mashuk really. It means over there the Gemara talks about that when he has erection, then it's not. That's not called the mashuk. That's something else. The Gemara over there also talks about if he's supposed to fix it up. But here is talking about that there was a skin that was artificially pulled in order to look like it looks now like he's uncircumcised. And Rafuna says that with the Raisa he's considered circumcised, but Rabbanan not, and he's not a titrum. The Gemara of Raisa would sound like it's the Raisa, and the Gemara refutes that it doesn't mean to say that. Even though it brings a pasuk, it's only an asmachta, and with the Raisa he's considered circumcised. The Gemara continues with a Brisa, as a kasha from a Brisa. Meisvei, the kasha is going to be the other direction. First we brought a Brisa that sounds like it's even the Brisa that he's considered an oral. And this Brisa is going to say the opposite, that he's allowed to eat truma. Now we're going to attack Yavun on the other side. First we attacked Yavun from one side, and that it's even with the rice, it's no good. And now he got out of that. Now we punch him on the other side to show that it says that it's kosher. It's not eat truma. Even Rabbani is not eat truma. That's going to be the kasha from this Brisa. This Brisa has a lot of other information. We're just going to look for the part we need, which is the highlighted with green over here. Meisvei, tumtum ein ochel b'truma, nashav avad of ochlen. A tumtum means that his genitals are covered up by his flesh, and you can't tell if he's a male or a female. So it says he's not allowed to eat. This is not our subject. Our subject is going to be mashach right here. This is going to be our subject of mashach. We'll get to there. But we have a lot of information. We have here a tumtum, we have a mashach, nolat kishu mol, androgynous. We have different subjects in the brisa. So we'll go through everything, then we'll come back to our subject. Tumtum, ein ochel b'truma. He's not allowed to eat truma. Why not? Because he's not circumcised. Since the organ is covered up by flesh, he wasn't able to be circumcised. So he's not, not allowed to eat truma. He's not allowed to eat truma. How about his wife? There's going to be a problem. The Gemara is right away going to jump up soon. How does he have a wife? He wasn't able to be married since his organ is covered up. He wasn't able to have relations. So what kind of wife does he have? So we'll get to that. And also Avada Ochlim. Since we didn't weakness Kaspo, the reason why a Kohen's wife and Avadim could eat is because he acquired them. So he's a Kohen. He's not allowed to eat truma. He has a problem. He's an oral, like we had right away in the beginning of the parak, that an oral cannot eat. But that's not a reason why his wife or Avadim cannot eat. So that's what it says here also, that a wife, if he has a wife, how does he get a wife? We'll see. And also with slaves, they could eat truma because he's a Kohen and his miknas kaspa. Okay, that's not the get to us. Mashuch, that's our subject. Mashuch v'nolat kishumal. Harei elu v'ochlum. Here it says that a mashuch, that means that he was circumcised. That's that the skin was pulled over again, so he could eat truma. And that's against Rav Huna. Rav Huna said with Rabbanan he cannot eat truma. Here it says he could eat truma. Also, it says nolat kishumal. That was yesterday's sugi. Also, there's machlokes yesterday if he has to have a tafas bris. Over here it seems to say that even if they did not let blood, he also is considered circumcised and he can't eat truma. It's not going to talk about it too much. It's not a sugi today. But here it says say nolat kishumal. We really want Moshe, the Brisa continues, androgynous, that he has both the simanim of a male and a female, and that's a question what he is. Here it says ochel b'truma, he's not a truma. Here
we assume he's circumcised.
He is circumcised. He has a male organ, and that was circumcised. We don't know if it's a male or a female. It doesn't make a difference. Whatever he is, he's the son of a Kohen, or the daughter of a Kohen, whatever he is, and he's circumcised. If he's a male, he's circumcised, so he can eat truma. But he's not allowed to eat kachim. Why not? So there are some kachim that a woman also allowed to eat. Like it says in the morning, there's kachim kalam that is I forgot the lashon over there, but women also allowed to eat kachim kalam. But kachim kadashim, only the men are allowed to eat, and zichri kahuna, only the male kohanim. So here we don't know if he's a male or female. So he wouldn't be allowed to eat those kind of kachim. Kachim kadashim, right? Rashi points it out. Here's Rashi. Where's the Rashi? Here's the Rashi b'kachim kadashim. That is only eaten like chatas, asham, shor menachos. They're only eaten to males. So then we don't know if he's a male, so he's not allowed to eat kashik kadashim. Kashim kalam he could because whatever he is, a male or a female. Now it goes back to a tumtum. We mentioned tumtum already. The beginning of the brisa was a tumtum, and the brisa again goes back to that tumtum ein ochel, which we said already before. Ein ochel b'truma. He says again, ein ochel lo b'truma v'lo b'kashim. He can't even eat truma, which seems to be redundant. The Gemara is going to come back to this. Why is the brisa redundant? That's the end of the brisa, and we want to focus on mashuch. Here it says mashuch could eat truma. And that's against Rav Huna, who says that Rabbanan he may not, because he near Ka'arel. Tifta Rav Huna tifta. So we seem at this point, we'll go further, but at this point it seems to refute Rav Huna that he is allowed to eat truma. He is allowed to eat truma. The question was that the question might be that the Brisa did say openly that Mashach Sorach Sheimo. The Brisa is very like Rav Huna that he does have to circumcise. This Brisa says they at least make a machlokas tanam. The Gemara knocks off Rav Huna. So Taisa says that even though the Brisa says he has to circumcise, maybe he's still kosher for truma. Means with Rabbanan he has to do his circumcision, but that doesn't mean there's not allowed to eat truma. That's the Taisa over here. Taisa helps us out. Meisvei the Moshe Chokol b'truma afagav the Sorach Sheimo with Rabbanan neishnei Korban lo asru b'truma. So that's how the Gemara is going. That the Brisa that says he has to circumcise, yes, he has to circumcise. But Rav Huna said he's not allowed to eat truma with Rabbanan. That he seems to have a Brisa that says openly that he could eat truma. So Rav Huna is refuted at this point. Is everything good?
This last Brisa said that he could eat.
Right, you have highlighted in green. It says a mashal could eat truma. Rav Huna said he cannot. So that's a kasha. That was a tufta. Rav Huna says that a mashal cannot eat truma with Rabbanan, but the Brisa he could. But he says with Rabbanan he can't. This Brisa says that he could. He could eat truma. In between, there was a Brisa that says he has to circumcise. We even thought with the Brisa we knocked it down to Rabbanan. But once we know that it's Rabbanan, so okay, he has to circumcise. But it doesn't say he's not allowed to eat truma. Rav Huna says he's not allowed to eat truma. The Brisa says he may eat truma. Tifta Rav Huna. At this point, the Gemara is knocking off Rav Huna. We'll come back to him again. We're going to get down to the bottom of the page. We'll get limit katanoi. Before we get there, we have a interruption. Is that the word? Or we're going to cruise on the side. We're going to go on a cruise now, a side cruise about tumtum. Means our Bryce, we just bought the Bryce because of Moshe. But the Bryce spoke about a tumtum and Rogan is a tumtum again. So we're going to open up a window on that. And it's not our subject, but here we go. And it said something about his wife. And that was the question. How does he have a wife? So that was the Bryce. And the Gemara is asking, how does he have a wife? Now, of course, he could give a kedushin. He can give her a ring of Kedushin, but there are two stages of marriage. One is Eris and one is Nisuin. And the Nisuin, which means the actual relation, they can't have relations because he's a tumtum. His organ is covered. So how is it possible that he has a wife? Interesting, because as far as eating truma, the miknas kaspo is what makes his wife eat truma. And once he does kedushin with the rice, he'd be allowed to eat. But midrabbanan not. Midrabbanan, he said midrabbanan he cannot eat because she might get truma in her father's house, and their family is going to eat the truma. So midrabbanan, he cannot eat until actual relations, and he doesn't have relations. We'll go through the Gemara a little bit. So the Gemara asks the kasha, how does he have a wife? It means he didn't have relations with his wife.
Maybe he had a wife without relations.
So at the Elam of the Kaddish, maybe only at Kedushin. Means Aviat Mekudash asleep, and she's an Arusa. With the Raisa she could eat Truma. And
Well, then, he had the Suan also, he just didn't have relations.
so that's the question. What does the Suan mean? So this thing called chuppah. But till now we knew till now the Suan is the actual relations, maybe. But here, Tash talks about chuppah. It sounds like chuppah also would allow her. She comes to his house already. That's what chuppah means. She's in his rishus. So then the whole chash about there are two things over there. But what we learned about that, she's not going to be in her father's house anymore. By your father's house, the whole household is Israelim, and they're not allowed to eat truma. So we're scared to give truma to her in her father's house. They might eat truma. But here she's already in his house, so maybe it will be even without having relations. The fact that she's in his house, she's called an asur already.
Kaddish is in his house.
No, Kaddish means kedushin. No, Kaddish just means kedushin, which means erisin. She's an arusa. She's married to Aret Mukadeshesli, and we'll explain that it means also an asuin. It means that he had chuppah also. That's the kasha. It means the kasha means that'll be an answer. It means it's not. It's a potential answer. The question was, how does he have a wife? The potential answer is that she's had kedushin. She's his wife because he gave her.
Wouldn't it be a Safek Kedushin?
What is that?
Wouldn't it be a Safek Kedushin?
Right, that's the Gemara's kasha. The Gemara is going to ask that. That's what the Gemara is going to ask. But first, the Gemara says on the side that he's a male. If he's a male,
It's, just Kedushin.
it's just kedushin.
Elam, that means like perhaps just.
It's just kedushin, and even though there was no marital relations, but she still married him in a way that she could eat truma. You have to throw in. The Gemara doesn't explain it. You have to throw in that she also had this chuppah that she's in his house, that is not by her father's house anymore, because we said in Rabbanan, a woman who only has kedushin is not allowed to eat truma because she might give it to her brothers and sisters back home. Only when she comes to her husband's house, now it's safe to give her truma.
Even without relations, she could be.
Right. Once she comes into his house, she's in the sewer. That's what Rabban was saying. So that would be enough to explain the brisa. But the Gemara still has Dr. Fine's problem. Elam in the Kaddish, the Tanya, Tumtum Shekidesh, Kedushin. Also in this Kaddish, Kedushin. Very interesting that even if he gave a woman Kedushin, L'choshish that is a marriage, maybe he's a male. It received Kedushin from a man, we know maybe he's a woman. Means we don't know if he's a man or a woman. So either way, if he gave the ring or he got the ring, so L'choshish that they're married, that he's married, he or she is married. That's the side point. But our point is to say that maybe the case would be that he gave kedushin to a woman, so she's allowed to eat truma because there was kedushin. But the more is asked, that defines kasha now. It's true that a tumtum who would make kedushin, this word kedushin doesn't mean it's definitely. We don't know if he's a man or a woman. So if he gave a woman kedushin, we can't say for sure it's kedushin. We don't know. Maybe she's also, the tumtum is also a female. So a female gave a female kedushin. Of course, it's nothing. So how could he eat truma? This tumtum was a kohen, but we don't know if he's a man or a woman. So if he gave kedushin to somebody, to a woman, she could eat. Of course, she can't eat. Maybe she's not married.
Can you do slowly the brisa with the punctuation?
Tumtum shekidesh kedush of kedushin, comma.
Kedushav.
Right.
I'm missing the word.
Tumtum shekidesh,
Comma.
hyphen. That would be the case. Tumtum shekidesh is the case.
Oh.
Kedush of kedushin is the psak. A tumtum that gave kedushin to a woman, the halacha is kedush of kedushin. The kedushin is a good kedushin. Nit kadesh, that's another case. If it received kedushin from a man gave her a ring, then also kedushin, yechoshish that she's married. If he gave kedushin, yechoshish that his wife is married, the woman is married. If the tumtum received kedushin, yechoshish that he's married, it is married. We don't know if he's a man or a woman. Anyway, our case is talking about the side that he's a man, and he gave kedushin to a woman, and there's a woman allowed to eat. So that's the Gemara's kasha. Of course not. maybe, when do we say that's kedushin l'chumra? That maybe, if there's any case of a chumra that is a marriage, but here it's on the opposite. You want to say that it's a marriage and she could eat truma, the wife could eat truma. Maybe the husband is not a husband. Maybe the husband is a woman disguised, and he wouldn't be able to give truma. There is a case of a tumtum that we do know that he's definitely a male if the testicles are noticeable. I mean, sometimes the tumtum is so covered up you can't see the testicles either. But sometimes testicles are noticeable, but the organ is covered. So you know that definitely that is a male. But he couldn't have had he couldn't have had relations. He couldn't have had mila. He's an orel, but he's definitely a male. In this case, that is also called a tumtum, right? Also called a tumtum. And that'll be found in the Brisa that if he gave a woman kedushin, it's definitely a man. The kedushin is definitely a kedushin, even though he's an oral and he can't eat truma, but his wife could eat truma, same way that his evet could, because make this kaspel, and she moved in with him. There's already chuppah, so she's allowed to eat truma. So we got through the Brisa. The Brisa is good. Rav has another teretz. Rav Amar, a little bit maybe a dochak. My nashav imo. When it says his woman, it doesn't have to mean his wife. Usually that's what it means. When it says his woman, it means his wife. But it can say his woman, it means his mother, which means that the mother who's married the Bas Yisrael, they married a Kohen, and they had a child, a tumtum. So the tumtum is enough to feed his mother truma, even if her husband died and she's not married to a Kohen anymore, but she has a child who's a Kohen. And even though he's a tumtum and he can't eat truma because he's uncircumcised, but his mother could eat because of him. Imo pshita, that goes without saying, because there's no difference if it's a boy or a girl or not. That's we know already. What's the difference? What's the chiddush? Since the pasuk you learn out that a child of a Kohen, of a Ashes Kohen, the mother of a Kohen could eat trumas from the pasuk that the children also give the mother to eat truma. Maybe the word yilid beso means molded, only if it's possible to give birth, and he can't. The tumtum can't give birth, even if they were. That's what we said before. That even if he's going to have an operation and they'll remove the covering and he has an organ that he have relations, but it's not going to produce. So you might think that the only a child that could reproduce is kind of a child that gives the mother to eat truma. Kamashma, you don't need that. Okay, so we went through the Brisa with the tumtum and we got through it. The Abai had one shot, the Rabbi had another shot. Now the Gemara continues to just analyze the Brisa to see which shot is going to work. It means if you go back to the Brisa, we mentioned that it says tumtum twice. Try to highlight that over here. That it mentioned it twice in the tumtum. It says a tumtum, and then it said at the end, it ended off again. It says it over, same thing over again. Tumtum, in the beginning it said about tumtum ein ochel b'truma. It also spoke about his wife. Okay, that's not our point, but it says the Brisa says twice. So that's what the Gemara is going to open up a window now. Why does it say twice? And we're going to see who better, Abai, Rava, who's going to fit better into the Brisa. So the Gemara continues. Tashma. This is the last narrow line. Tashma tumtum ein ochel lo b'truma v'lo b'kachim. The end of the Brisa says again that a tumtum cannot eat truma. Bishlam al Abaye, that says that it's talking about the Reisha. That says tumtum is talking about that the testicles are noticeable, and you can tell that he's a zocher. He's definitely a male. Tana Reisha oral vaday, Tani say for suffix oral. That's why the Brisa repeats it to tell you not only if he's definite oral, even if he's a suffix oral. The first case is more reason why he shouldn't eat truma, because you know definitely that he's uncircumcised. You see that he's a male. You know he has testicles. You see testicles. You see that he's a male, and he's surely not circumcised. That's partially can eat truma. But how about if he's a suffix? You don't know if he's a zocher at all. That everything is covered up. You don't know he's a male, so maybe he would be able to eat truma because only a suffix. So the Brisa says it again that any kind of a tumtum.
Because it might be a woman.
Right.
Oh.
If outside that it's a woman, then he's not uncircumcised. So maybe he could eat truma. It's only a suffix. So the Brisa says it again. Any kind of a tumtum cannot eat truma. From the fact that it repeats it again, it's to say a chiddush. Not only a vaday oral, he's a vaday zocher. Tumtum was a vaday zocher. He's a vaday oral. Even if it's a tumtum that you can't tell it was a male, and on the side that it's a woman, there's no problem. Of course, she could eat truma. So maybe a suffix would be allowed to eat truma. Kamash Malan. So it repeats it again to say even a suffix oral. But according to Rava, both of them are talking. The Brisa is talking about a tumtum both times, the same tumtum, not the testicles, not based on mimbachutz. It's not talking about that you see the testicles. So if so, there's no reason why the Brisa repeats itself. Ela the Rava, tumtum the sefer lamali. Why does it repeat itself? The same thing twice. It says tumtum doesn't need truma. Then it says again tumtum doesn't need truma. My tumtum orel. I think the Gemara means to say that the word tumtum in the end of the Brisa should really be replaced by the word orel. Replace the word. That tumtum in the sefer says orel. The beginning said tumtum, and the sefer says orel. Orel in ochel b'truma v'lo b'kachim.
Not something else.
Not tumtum, orel. And then the Gemara says, of course you don't have to say that. That makes even less sense. The beginning of the Brisa said a tumtum doesn't eat. And then it's going to say that orel doesn't eat. Of course not. Ma tam kama. The Brisa means to explain itself. Ma tam tum tamena ochel b'truma mipnei shesafak oral huva oral leina ochel b'truma v'lo b'kachim. He reads the Brisa that is explaining itself. The Brisa in the beginning said a tum tum dandani truma, and that means in case we don't know, it's covered up, and we don't know if he's a zochel. It might be a oral, might be an oral. Then the Brisa explains, you know why he can't eat? Because a vadai oral cannot eat. This word should be changed to oral. That since a vadai oral cannot eat, that's why even a tum tum cannot eat because he's a safak oral. So it's not repeating; it's just explaining itself. The reason why tumtum cannot eat is because the oral is not allowed to eat, and he might be an oral. If that's good, so we got through the brisa, and we're back to the halacha. What happened so far? We had just to zoom out. We had Rav Huna at top. Rav Huna is the one who said that when the brisa a mashach is considered circumcised, but Rabbanan he shouldn't eat truma. First, we had a kasha that sounds like it's the raisa. We said it doesn't mean that, only with Rabbanan. Then we had a kasha from a brisa that says that mashach may eat truma. And we refuted at that point. We said Tifta. We got very Rav Huna's off. It says Rav Huna said a mashach may not eat truma midrabanan. The Brisa says the green highlight that a mashach may eat truma, and that's what the Gemara said Tifta Rav Huna. That's what we're holding so far. That a oral is supposed mashach is supposed to be circumcised. He should, but it doesn't stop him from eating truma. Even before he recircumcises, he's allowed to eat truma, not like Rav Huna said. But now the Gemara on the bottom is bringing it back on the map again. Lema katanoi. It seems to be a machlokes tanoim if he's allowed to eat truma, and means we're going to bring back Rav Huna back on stage again. Even though the Brisa said that mashach may eat truma, now we're going to show that Rav Huna may be right, and this machlokes tanoim. The machlokes tanoim is going to bring a machlokes what the Gemara thinks if a mashach has to be circumcised midaraisa or midrabanan. If he has to be circumcised with the raisa, so then Rav Huna is surely right. The part of Rav Huna is not going to be right about that it's only Rabbanan, but he surely cannot eat truma. So that's what the Gemara is now going to bring a machlokes. The Gemara thinks it has a proof that a mashach machlokes if he has to have circumcision with the raisa with Rabbanan, and that's how it's going to go back to this issue about eating truma. If it's going to be if he needs a circumcision with the raisa, then surely he cannot eat truma. So what does the Brisa say? Mashach. It has a lot of other things also on the Brisa, but just to skip for a second, the Brisa is going to say that a mashach has to be circumcised in the daytime. And we're going into the subject of daytime and nighttime. That circumcision is only in the daytime. And the Brisa over here said not only a regular circumcision, even a mashach also has to be circumcised only in the daytime. And there's going to be machlokes about that. Rabbi Ben Shimon is going to argue and say no, he can be circumcised even at night. That's what we're getting to. We read the whole Brisa, but that's what focus is going to be. Mashach.
I'm sorry, just what's the definition of mashach?
Mashach means that the skin has been stretched around the corona in a way that it looks like a foreskin. The foreskin really was cut away, but then they stretched the skin around in order to make it look like a foreskin. So it looks like an artificial foreskin. And you look at it, it looks like he's not circumcised. So we talked about is it the rice or the rabbanan that he has to circumcise again. And Rav Huna said with the rice it's a good circumcision. He's circumcised, but rabbanan he shouldn't eat truma. And the Gemara brought a brisa that says he could eat truma. And now we're holding by a lema katanoi about the subject. What is a mashach? What is his status? Does he need circumcision with the brisa or not? Here the brisa can have machlokes if he has to be circumcised in the daytime. The brisa says he does have to be circumcised. This stretched skin has to be cut away. But is it the right? Does it have to be in the daytime or not? It has other subjects also. It says mashach, number one. Number two, gershon is guy kishumol, a ger that was already circumcised as a goy, and now he became Jewish. So we said he has to have a tafas lam bris, that he has to let blood. There's some blood has to be let in that area. And here it seems if he doesn't do that, also it's not. He won't. The question is if it has to be done in the daytime or not. That a tafas lam bris, that bloodletting, does it have to be in the daytime or the nighttime? So we'll see. Katan shavas mano. When there's a bris milo, not on the 8th day, it's past the 8th day. Katan shavas mano means it's not on the 8th day. Like anytime that a bris is not always on time. Does it have to be in the daytime? Maybe only the 8th. Maybe only the 8th has to be in the daytime. On the daytime. Shakol animal. What?
Isn't the idea that you have to see what you do?
Yeah, we have lights.
Light a candle.
Yeah, we see what we're doing. The Shakol hanimolim and other cases also. Who's that? So the Brisa doesn't say, but the Gemara explains. If there are two foreskins, that's not a regular case. But if there are two foreskins around the corona, so both of them have to be cut. So how about all of these cases? Tanakama says, all these cases, number one, Moshe, Gershon is Gaia.
People that were already circumcised.
I'm not following.
Everybody had a milah here.
No. The first case is he was circumcised, then it was stretched. Second case is he had a circumcision when he was a god. The third case is it's a baby after the 8th day. Never was circumcised.
Ger who had a circumcision.
When he was a Gershon's guy, when he was converted, he was already
Cutting his past the
Katan,
8th day?
so he was never circumcised.
Okay, and what the last one, what is that?
Is that he had two foreskins. He was born with two foreskins. In every case, he was born with two foreskins. You have to cut both of them.
What is called?
It does mean others also, others and others, other
Other
circumcisions, others that are
cases
circumcised,
necessary.
that are supposed to be circumcised, but it doesn't say what it is, and the Gemara inserts that's
Okay.
coming lasuya mishesh lo shtei orlos,
Okay,
which Rashi says yes, beis or zul gabazut, last Rashi, two foreskins. So all these cases, how many cases we have? Moshuch, Gershon is Gaya, Katan Shavas Mano, and this mishesh lo shtei orlos. The Bryce has 4 cases. All these 4 cases is issue. Is an issue. Tanakama says all these circumcisions have to be done in the daytime, even though it's not on the 8th day. Rav Elazar, Rav Shimon Omer, no, bismano, Eidi Molin El B'Yom, but Shalo bismano Ni Molin B'Yom Uvalayla. That the din of that day is only on the 8th day. If it's on the 8th day, and these cases are any cases on the 8th day, maybe the last case of Shtei Olos, if it be done on the 8th day, maybe. But any case which is done not on the 8th day, the Moshuch is probably not going to be on the 8th day. He's circumcised and it was again pulled again. It's not going to happen on the, so it's past the 8th day. And also Gershon is Gaia. It's not on the 8th day. Katan Shabbos Mana is not on the 8th day. The last case might be on the 8th day. I'm not sure. But his klal is that the din of having on the daytime is only on the 8th day. That you can't do it the eve of the 8th. The eve of the 8th is not good. The first 7 days are not good. Even the night prior to the 8th is also not kosher for Mila. But once it's the 8th day, then it's kosher even on the next night and on. So that's a machlokas. Moshuch, does it have to have the circumcision in the daytime or not? Why? What's the shorish of the machlokas? What are they arguing about? My labakim, if the machlokas must be the Marsav and Moshuch the Raisa, Marsav and Moshuch the Rabbanan. The Gemara first presents the possibility the machlokas is if he has to be circumcised with the Raisa or not. It means Rav Huna that said that it's only the Rabbanan and he could not and he should not eat truma. That could be a Mamadam, but the one that says that could even be at night. That might hold that's the Rabbanan. The one who holds that has to be in the daytime, the Gemara understands because he holds that it has to be with the Raisa. So Rav Huna's point, according to this, both Stadim hold maybe that he cannot eat truma. Means the Gemara had a kasha on Rav Huna that it doesn't. Raisa doesn't know about truma at all. The kasha was Rav Huna said he may not eat truma with Rabbanan, and the Raisa says he may eat truma. But the Gemara seems to say have here an issue that some say that it is the Raisa. Means we're not going back to Rav Huna Dafka Kosher, yes truma, not truma. We seem to have machlokas over here. If it's the Raisa, before Rav Huna said it's Rabbanan, the Raisa seems to say it's the Raisa. Rav Huna said doesn't mean that it's only an asmachta. But here the fact that it says that some hold that it has to be in the daytime, the Gemara thinks because they hold that as the Raisa. So it's against Rav Huna, said it's only Rabbanan. It doesn't talk about truma over here. But the Gemara says that's not as a proof at all. The Tizbra, Katan Shabbos Manu, Mikalam Adama Rabbanan, this far that the Gemara thinks the only reason why it could be at night, Rav Elazar Rav Shimon says it could be at night is because it's Rabbanan. It's not true. Of course, there could be cases where you have the Raisa Mila, and still it could be at nighttime because Rav Elazar Rav Shimon says that if it's not the 8th day, it's the 9th day, it's the 10th day. He also holds that it has to be, it could be even at night. And over there, surely the Raisa, nobody's going to say that if you missed 8 days, so it's not the Raisa anymore. So that's your assumption is not true. Your premise is not true. That to say that if he says that it could be a Mila at night, it means it's Rabbanan, is not true. There surely could be a Mila which is the Raisa, and Rav Elazar Rav Shimon still says that it's at night. So that's because he says that it is Katan Shabbos Manu Mikim Adam Rabbanan, Ella the Kul Yam Mashach Rabbanan, the Katan Shabbos Manu the Raisa, Vacha Miflagi, Marsava Dashina Nubayom, Marsava Lo Dashina Nubayom. The Gemara says it's irrelevant. This machlokas, this whole issue here has nothing to do with the Raisa Rabbanan. It means you can have both extremes. You might have that there's the Raisa, and someone hold that it could even be at night, and it could be Rabbanan, it has to be in the daytime. There's nothing to do with the Raisa Rabbanan. So it's nothing to do with our subject. But Naka, we did stumble upon machlokas over here. If a Mila Shlobos Mana has to be in the daytime or not. Tanakama says yes, and Rav Elazar Rav Shimon says not. And there's nothing to do with being the Raisa, even if it's the Raisa, if it's not on the right day, he holds that. So we can't prove from here, Mashach is the Raisa Rabbanan. It might be the Raisa, it might be Rabbanan. We'll leave it Rav Huna, probably Rav Huna is right. And we did have a Raisa before that said there is a lot of Truma, so we have to leave that open. But as far as being the Raisa Rabbanan, you can't prove from this Raisa anything. The Raisa before did bring Psukim, Rav Huna said it's only an Asmachta, so it could be that it's only Rabbanan. As far as Truma, Rav Huna said he cannot eat Truma, the Raisa said he could eat Truma. And this Bryce doesn't say.
Uvayom is part of the pasuk.
Right, so it says, "Uvayom hashmini yimol b'sar olaso." The Gemara says, "Uvayom hashmini yimol b'sar olaso," and the Gemara is saying there's a question if you would dash in this uvayom to say the extra word, the extra vav, I guess, is going to be a machlokis if you're going to dash in that even a mila shalo bismano also has to be dafka in the daytime. Did I get it right? I think so. That the word b'yom hashmini means dafka in the daytime. Dafka in the daytime. B'yom hashmini in the day. Does it? How about other times the meal is being done? Not on Yom Hashmini. It's being done on Yom Hachi, Yom Hatziri, after 5 months, after 5 years. An adult.
It also has to be in the
It would also have to be in the day. So if you dash in ubiyom, you dash in extra vav. So then we're going to say that it always has to be in the daytime. And if you don't dash in it, then it doesn't have to be in the daytime. That's machlokes on the comment as Rav Shimon. Because of that, we got a bonus over here, and a very interesting bonus that the Gemara talks about this brush of ubayom. Ki had the Yosef of Yochanan v'Kadarish, no service mano ina nisra fel b'yom, shalobis mano nisra ben b'yom and b'layla. We're going on the side subject. We're going to come back to our subject right away. But this cruise takes us to the din of nosar. Nosar means if you have a korban that was left over time, whatever the time is, sometimes after 1 day, sometimes after 2 days, and then the shlamim, then the third day it has to be burnt. Nosar. So Rabbi Yochanan says when you're burning nosar, so if it's burnt on the right time, which means on the first day that it became nosar, usually, okay, it depends if it's kosher kadashim, kosher kalam, whatever, the first day that it became nosar, so then it has to be burnt after in the daytime. But if it's shalobas mana, it's already past the time, it's a couple of days later. So then it could even be burnt at night also. That's what Rabbi Yochanan said. Nosar, bismana, if it's being burnt on the right day, on the first day that it became nosar, then it's only burnt in the daytime, not at night. But shalobas mana, once it's already past the time, then it's not to be burnt even in the nighttime. That was what Rabbi Yochanan said. Eis by Rabbi Elazar, we'll see Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas. There's a Tana, Rabbi Elazar ben Shamua, the Tomad Amora, Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas. Soon the Gemara is going to call him ben Pedas. So Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas asked Rabbi Yochanan. The Brisa says a different subject about Mila, back to our subject of Mila, this issue about day and night. Ainly ala nima lishmini, sheni malala b'yom, minayin l'rabos l'tisha l'asora l'chadas l'shnei mazar, tamalama ubayom. That this issue by Mila, does it have to be dafka in the daytime? So there's a Brisa that says that if it would have only said b'yom hashmini, I would have taught only on the 8th day it has to be done on the 8th day. But if it's done on different days, it could even be done at night. How do you know? The Brisa goes on to say, how do you know that even a Mila on the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th, and you can say either further also, any day that a bris Mila is going to happen, how do you know it has to be dafka on the daytime? Tamalama ubayom. This is the Brisa that says that ubayom is coming to tell you that even shlobas mano also has to be on the daytime. That's what we brought before. Machlokis, if you dash ubayom or not. And therefore, what does Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas mean to ask? By nosar, also it says vehanosar. Rashi brings down the pasuk vehanosar b'yom hashlishi b'eishi sarev. So the vav of, just like you have a vav of ubayom, also there's going to be a vav vehanosar, and therefore it should have to be even shalobas mano should have to be burnt on the daytime. Elazar ben Pedas is challenging Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan said that only if it's burnt on the right day, then it's burnt on the daytime. But if it's burnt shalobas mano, it doesn't have to. But if Elazar ben Pedas is asking the same way by Mila, we say that the ubayom is coming to teach you even shalobas mano, it also has to be done in the daytime. So the pasuk says vehanosar vav also should teach you that it should be burnt in the daytime even if it's not on the right day. And then Elazar ben Pedas continues, but vav vehei dorish. Even if you're going to hold like the other Tana that doesn't dash nubayom, which we had before was Rabbi Elazar ben Shimon, the bottom line of the Amud Aleph, and he doesn't dash nubayom, and he says that mila shalobas mano could be at night. But here he's also going to be masking that nosar has to be burnt after in the daytime, even if shalobas mano. Why? Because here's not only above, here it's above hey, vehanosar. The word is nosar, vehanosar, so it's above and hey. So therefore, Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas is arguing on Rabbi Yochanan and saying that nosar does have to be burnt in the daytime, the kuli alma, even if it was not on the right day.
Was this a Brisa or something?
This was a Brisa until here. Ainli elanimo lishmini, sheini malala b'yom. Till there's a Brisa. And then he added on that here it says Vav Hayes, everyone's going to be masking. So that was a Elazar ben
Even if
Pedas
he doesn't dorish vav, he would dorish.
Vav Hay. Ishtik, Vav Hay does. And then Ishtik, Rabbi Yochanan didn't know what to answer. Rabbi Yochanan had no answer. Elazar ben Pedas came with a drasha that Vehanosar, Vav Hay, and he challenged Rabbi Yochanan and said, no, that nosar has to be burnt in the daytime, even if it's shalobas mano. Ishtik, he was quiet, he didn't know what to say. La'acha, Masa the Nafik, after Rabbi Elazar ben Pedas left the room, Rabbi Yochanan was Lakish, Yoisi ben Pedash, Yoshi Pedash, Kimoshe Mipia Gvua. Rabbi Yochanan was impressed. Ben Pedash is Dashning Psukim. He has a Ubayom, Vehanosar, like I see Rabbi Elazar ben Pedash is Dashning like Moshe from Hashem, that he's Dashning Psukim. Amalei Shlokish, Hidei, Masnisi. So Shlokish told Rabbi Yochanan, is it his own drasha? No, it's a brisa. He didn't say his own. He said over a brisa. Rabbi Yochanan didn't know the brisa. So Rabbi Yochanan asked him, where's the brisa? Hechatanale, where's this brisa? He told him, the Torah's Kohanim. It's a brisa in Torah's Kohanim, the Sifra. So Rabbi Yochanan didn't know the Sifra. Till this day, Rabbi Yochanan didn't learn the Sifra. And he heard that he knows the Sifra, Dashnim Psukim. He was very impressed. So he learned the Sifra, not for Tanya, but Lasa Yomi. So Rabbi Yochanan learned the whole Torah's Kohanim in 3 days. And then Savra B'Tlasa Yachi. He did a Bekias. He did in 3 days, and then he did Eon 3 months. He learned the Torah's Kohanim in 3 days, and then Savra means this Svara means that the Eon he analyzed it in 3 months. Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan didn't know the Torah's Kohanim. He was a Rabbi Yochanan. He was bigger Rabbi Yochanan, but he didn't know the Torah's Kohanim. The Medrash Halacha and Sefer Vayikra. That's the end of the sugya. What do we have? A Moshuch. There's a question if he's considered oral deraisa or not. Rav Huna said it's only Rabbanan. Question if he could eat truma. The more did bring psukim, the brisa about psukim, but Rav Huna said that it's a smachta, not to take it literally. It's only a remez, and he may not eat truma with Rabbanan. The Gemara brought a brisa that says he may eat truma, and no way to get out of it. Right, the brisa says he may eat truma. The question is if Huna is a tiyufta. It seems maybe it's a tiyufta. Could be that's a tiyufta. The Gemara thought that had a brisa here that says maybe it's the raisa, that Moshe is the raisa needs meal. The Gemara said doesn't mean that. You can't tell if it's the raisa. The Rabbanan could be the raisa, and it could be at night. It could be the Rabbanan, and it could be in the day. So that machlok is not relevant. It does seem to be a brisa against Rav Huna. So it could be that the halacha would be that he could eat truma, even though he is supposed to circumcise himself. Aga, we got the machlokis about mila shlo bazman, if it has to be in the daytime or not. Machlokis Tanakama and Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon. We pass like Tanakama that even mila shlo bazman is only in the daytime. So you never invited to a bris shalom at night. You never go to a bris at night. Also, adults. I remember I had a friend who was a mohel for adults, Russians, and they had a full day of work, but came shkia at the stop. You're not allowed to do a mila shlo bazman. Even mila shlo bazman has to be only in the daytime. According to Rabbi Elazar Reb Shimon, it could have been also in the nighttime. That's the halacha. That mila is only in the daytime, even shlo bazman. What?
And Thomas Dunbris also.
That's what it says. That's what it says. It says that a Gershon is guy. It also says that's not what it says. It says a katan. What does it say over there? Gershon is guy. That's going to be a toughest Dunbris, right?
No, Gershon is guy.
Gershon is guy. No,
Thomas
Gershon is guy.
Dunbris
Kishum. Yeah, he was circumcised as a goy. Now, as a Jew, he has to do toughest Dunbris. Also has to be in the daytime. There's also in the parentheses. It also says no that Kishum. We didn't say that. I didn't read those words. Oh no, Kishum also has to have Dunbris. Has to be in the daytime. Okay, new sugya. Omar Rabbi Elazar.
How come we show the answer right away? They're afraid and they cry out, we don't get answered, rain, etc. So in terms of learning, they learn the Zika.
So what do you see from there? Over there is even Mishnayos. There's even Mishnayos over there. So that's a chiddush that they didn't have time to learn Mishnayos because they were also in the force dorm. But here, Torah's Kohanim, we didn't know. Just a short point, not the subject at all, but there's an issue. We talked about it a number of times, not as many times as other subjects, but we did talk about the drushes. Is the drusha the source of the halacha? We learned Gemaras like this. It says, Uva Yom. Is that the source of the halacha? The drushes is the source of the halacha? Or that's after the fact kind of thing? So they bring a raya, Rabbi Yochanan. He was Rabbi Yochanan already. He didn't know Torah's Kohanim. Torah's Kohanim is all drushes. It's all the psukim and the drusha. Psukim and the drusha. Psukim and the drusha. Everything is the, and Rabbi Yochanan didn't know it. That means that it seems that the Medrash was not based on learning drushes. That wasn't the source of the halacha. The source of the halacha was going to be from a Sorah or from Kal V'chomer, from the Dama Milsa or Milsa. And the drushes is after the fact in order to find the remez. And this is one of the big proofs that Rabbi Yochanan was Rabbi Yochanan before he didn't know Torah's Kohanim at all. If the whole source of the, it's.
You would think for sure that he knew it. Everybody knew Torah's
No, I would think that he wouldn't be able to be Rabbi Yochanan if he didn't know, if the whole way they learned Torah was by extracting from the psukim. So the Torah's Kohanim was going to be the source. That's where they have the drusha. Rabbi Yochanan didn't know the whole Torah's Kohanim. That means that the Rabbi Yochanan's discussions were not based on the drushes. The discussions of the sources of the halacha were not the drusha. They didn't say what to say to Torah and Darshan the vav, and that wasn't that wasn't it. There was only a after fact, and many say this. The Ramachal says so, the Maral says so. I found it in a number of sources already. That's a big machlokes. Some people, I think it's important to teach children or anybody that's learning. They get very upset, so to speak, frustrated that this vav, like where do you see in the vav anything? It says vav, you can make up halacha, like where did it come from? You can see in the vav that it's not talking about.
It's not from.
It's not from. It's only after the fact. Brings a pasuk. After the fact, we can't tell something's the raisa because of a pasuk, because it could be that's only an asmachta. And even if it's the raisa, that's not the source where they got it from. I'm saying something else. That even when it is the raisa, that's not the source where they got it from. Okay, something different discussion for more time, but this is one of the sources that they bring. Amar Rabbi Elazar, Arel Chehiza, Azasa Kshev. The other day we talked about Arel Shekibel Azar. If they sprinkled onto an oil, yesterday's Gemara said that he's able to get sprinkled on from the, if he's Tamei Meis, even though he's an oil, don't think that he can't receive the Hazah. Here's different suggestions. Could he be the sprinkler? Could he be the one who's going to sprinkle on? That an oil is uncircumcised, he could sprinkle onto a person who's Tamei Meis, and it's a good sprinkle. Just like a Tful Yom. Tful Yom means that he was Tamei, went to the mikvah, but didn't have yet Harav Shemesh, the sun didn't come down on him. Just like, it means don't think just because he's Asa B'Truma, an oral, so therefore he can't do Azah. I'll show you somebody else. It's not a Kal V'chomer, it's just saying that it's equal. But Tful Yom is also not allowed to eat Truma, but he's kosher to do it Azah. So too, an oral is the same thing. Even though he's not allowed to eat Truma, it doesn't mean that he's not allowed to sprinkle. He's allowed to sprinkle also. But then why is the problem? Malu Tful Yom Shekei Mutar B'Maisa. There's on the other one hand, we can say that Tful Yom is more lenient. He's not the same. But Tful Yom is more lenient because he's allowed to eat Maisa, and the oral is not allowed to eat Maisa. We didn't have that Maisa Sheni. We didn't have that yet, but we have to take it for granted. We have to accept it over here that it says that the oral is not allowed to eat Maisa Sheni. So maybe a Tful Yom, even though a Tful Yom is allowed to sprinkle the paraduma, the kosher b'para, maybe it's not enough to learn to an oral. Maybe an oral is more severe. So Gemara says no. We're not talking about eating. We're talking about touching. We said before, the Gemara started off saying as if it's the same as Tful Yom. The Gemara is explaining now. We don't mean that. We mean that it's even a Kal V'chomer. That a Tful Yom is not allowed to touch Truma. It means if you touch the Truma becomes Tamei. And an oral is allowed to touch. There's no such thing. Oral is not allowed that makes Truma Tamei. If oral touches Truma, nothing happens. If a Tful Yom touches Truma, it becomes Tamei. It becomes a Shlishi. So if a Tful Yom that's us to touch the Truma, he's allowed to do the Hazah, so surely an oral who's mutter to touch the Truma is surely allowed to do the Hazah. And that is no kasha for Maisa. We're not talking about eating Maisa. We're talking about this touching, and the oral is surely mutter to touch Maisa. Is even mutter to touch Truma. So the Gemara is a drasha. Rav Elazar ben Kadas. He said a drasha to say that an oral is allowed to do Hazah. Tani Namayachi also Bryce also supports that. Tani Namayachi oral shiza Hazah Ksheru, and brings a story also. So such a story happened that an oral uncircumcised person, he's the one who sprinkled the paraduma water onto the Tamei Meis, and they said it's kosher. Fine. So we have Rav Elazar and a Bryce that say that an oral could do Hazah. Basically, kasha from a Bryce, the Bryce says the opposite. It's highlighted in pink that it says openly not. Now it doesn't talk about Hazah, it talks about Kiddush. Tumtum shekidesh kiddush apostle, b'pnei shu tzafak oral, the oral apostle kadesh. So the word Kiddush is a different. We have Kiddush, we have Kiddushin, and we have on Shabbos after morning of a Kiddush. There's a different kind of a Kiddush. There's a Kiddush over here that's called to putting the ashes onto the water of the ashes of the paraduma onto the water of the Mayim Chaim. That's also called to be Mekadesh. If you learn Mishnah is para, you get that terminology that Kiddush. There's not a kind of a Kiddush. Putting the water, the ashes of the paraduma onto the water of the Mayim Chaim to make all that water mehazah, to make a sprinkling water, that's called Kiddush. And the question is, who is the one who's kosher to put the ashes into the water?
And they do it on Shabbos also?
I don't know. Why do you ask? If you like, why should you ask? Why not?
They probably didn't do it on Shabbos because they didn't. Most of the base mikdash is basically closed.
Yeah. It's not the base of mikdash. It's not the base of mikdash over here. It's not the base of mikdash.
I think there's nothing more to do on Shabbos.
So what are you doing? You're making the water. You're making the water kosher water. Like water. I don't know. Are you allowed to do it? I don't know. You're probably not allowed to sprinkle on somebody because that's going to be like not going to the mikveh. You're not allowed to make somebody kosher. You're not allowed to rectify them. The sprinkling. But they're talking about the kiddush. The kiddush means putting the ashes onto the water to make it sprinkling water. So for some reason, the Gemara compares this to halacha to sprinkle. The one who's kosher to sprinkle is also the same criteria to be mekadosh the water, to put the ashes onto the water. Here it says
You might not be able to do it also because you're taking it for whatever, and then
you're making the water good water. Maybe, but I don't know. Meisvei tumtam shekidesh kiddush pasal. B'fnei shu safakara. Oral pasal kadesh. Here the Brisa takes for granted that an oral cannot do the kiddush. The oral uncircumcised person can't put the ashes into the water, and therefore it says that a tumtum who's a suffakar, we don't know. Maybe he's a female, but on the side that he's a male, so he's uncircumcised, so he also can't do kiddush. So the Brisa says openly that oral is pasal kadesh against Rabbi Lazar, who said that he may oral shehiza. Now he's talking about azah. He's talking about kiddush. But for some reason, they put it together. I don't know why. It goes for granted in the Gemara that the person who's kosher to do azah could do kiddush. The person who can't do kiddush can't do azah, even though it doesn't go together. I'm not sure why the Gemara takes it for granted. I have to look more into it, but so far I didn't see. But anyway, that's the Gemara's assumption. It goes together, and the Gemara's not going to say differently. It goes together. The totally whoever could do kiddush could do azah, and this Brisa says that all cannot do kiddush. They can't do azah. The Brisa goes further, and some extra credit again. Androgynous shekidesh kedusha kosher of Yehuda Omer Afa androgynous shekidesh kedusha psulim b'pnei shesafa kisha risha psula l'kadesh. Machlok is here about a woman. Could a woman do kiddush? Could a woman put the ashes onto the water? So Tanakama says yes, a woman could, and androgynous could also, because androgynous is a suffix man, suffix woman, but a woman also could do it. The Abita says androgynous could not, because he holds a woman is puzzle. The Gemara is going to talk about this. We'll open a window soon. It's a side issue. Can a woman do kiddush? Can a woman be the one to put the ashes onto the water? Anyway, back to our subject. It said oral pasal l'kadesh. Katani mia oral b'safek oral pasal l'kadesh. So it's against Rabbi Lazar and the Brisa before that said that oral could do azah. Amar Yosef, hi Tana Tana de Rabbi Kiva he the Mabile oral katamei. The Tanya Rabbi Kiva Omer ishish Rabbi Solo. We had this before. At the beginning of the parak, we spoke about why is an oral tamei? Why is the oral us to do us to teach truma? We had big sugi in the beginning, whole daf. Machlok Rabbi Lazar and Rabbi Kiva. Rabbi Lazar said because of Xer Shavat Toshav Sakir Toshav Sakir, and Rabbi Kiva said because it says by truma ish ki mizar aron v'hutzaru azov. It says that a person who's tamei is not allowed to eat truma. And since it said ish is a riboy, it comes to add on that even a oral also cannot eat truma. The fact,
both hold the same,
both hold the same. But now the Gemara says there's an afkamina. There's an afkamina. Till now, he held the same. Now it comes to an afkamina. The fact that Rabbi Kiva learns out oral from the parsha of Tameh, that means oral has a din of a Tameh. We wouldn't have thought so. But here it says that since in the parsha of Tumah, ish izaron butzaru azov, that is Tameh can't eat truma, and there the ish comes to be marble that oral also cannot eat truma. So oral is like a tamei, and as far as this also, just like a tamei cannot be mazer, so too, and mekadesh, so too oral. So the one makes machlokas out of it. We're pass like Rabbi Kiva. We're going to pass him like Rabbi Lazar. That is drasha. So we hold that oral is not like a tamei. So it's true there is a machlokas, but the machlokas is dependent on that machlokas. If oral is like a tamei, only Rabbi Kiva holds oral is a tamei. Otherwise, there's no problem, and the halach is going to be like Rabbi Lazar, that an oral could do hazah, could do kiddush, could do kiddush. He's not like a tamei. Rabbi Kiva was like that.
So we say oral shemol who's kaparish minal kever.
A ger shemol. So that's the poetic. It's poetic. It means over there. It means over there that he has to wait 7 days. That's another way of saying that he has to wait 7 days. That's why it says such a lashon that a ger shemol is kaparish minal kever. That means that he has to wait 7 days. The same way after Yatumas Meis has to wait 7 days. Also, they can't eat the korban pesach for 7 days. But it doesn't mean that it's tamei. I think Taisa talks about it a couple of days ago. A couple of pages ago, Taisa might have mentioned it. But that's what comes out that it's not really tamei. We don't know that it's tamei. Rabbi Kiva knows that it's tamei, that he has the same thing as a tamei, and that's why he can't do kiddush, can't do azah. We don't pass like Rabbi Kiva. Amar Rava, have you seen the Kamedi of Yosef? Casually, though the Shtam of listening all about tamei, but Rabbi Kiva. Rava was surprised. I was sitting in front of Rav Yosef. Rava says about himself. I was sitting in front of Rav Yosef, and I had difficulty. You tell me a big chiddush that according to Rabbi Kiva, oral is like a tamei. There's no place in the Mishnayos where it's going to say this on Yisod that oral is like a tamei. Like it should be someplace. There's no Tana any place that's going to say the oral and tamei, and we'll say it's Rabbi Kiva who holds that as together. Rabbi Kiva should be someplace in the Mishnayos. So the Gemara says, yeah, I have it. Below, there's no such Mishnah. Oral tamei b'tomei ariyah. It says that the oral and tamei are not supposed to are not apart from the mitzvah of riyas on on Yom Tov. But regular, you're supposed to Yeruah calls the Chorchas B'nei Hashem. So oral let Tomei Apoter. They can't go into the base of Mikdash, and they don't bring don't send the korban riyah. But you see that it goes together. Oral Tomei. So that must be Rabbi Akiva. According to Rabbanan, oral would be able to bring either go into the base of Mikdash and also bring a korban riyah. So the Gemara says no, that's not pshat. The reason why oral over there doesn't do riyah is not because he's tamei, but because it's disgusting. Like we said the other day, like called the cherpa, that that foreskin is considered nimas, and that's the reason why he doesn't do riyah, not because he's tamei, but because he's ma'us. Yeah, this word yesterday. The Gemara said the same thing, that an oral is considered ma'us. So we just left it at that. The Gemara brought a brayso that said that an oral cannot do kiddush, and also the Gemara said cannot do azah. The question was, does he argue on any? It says only Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva holds that oral is like a tamei. Rabbi was surprised you don't find him any place in the Mishnayos, so we're left with the surprise. We don't know why he's not mentioned any place, but the Gemara still goes that oral is like a tamei. According to Rabbi Akiva, according to everybody else, not. So an oral is kosher to do azah. Oral is kosher to do kiddush. The Gemara goes on the rest of the daf now. We'll do it fast. That it brings down. I'm sorry for those who are waiting for the next year. But just finish off the daf. In parentheses, it spoke about an androgynous, a woman. Androgynous is a Suffolk woman. Could a woman do kiddush? Could a woman do the kiddush of the Ephah Paraduma to mix the water with ashes? We find a machlokes between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbanan about this issue about a woman. It's a Mishnah that it says, according to Tanakama, everyone can do kiddush. Kiddush again means putting the ashes onto the water, except for cheoshot of a katan. But a woman is kosher. That's what he said before, that a woman is kosher. Rabbi Yehuda holds that a katan is good. Tanakama says katan is not good. We're going to do both of them now. A katan is not good, and a woman is good. Rabbi Yehuda holds the opposite on both. Rabbi Yehuda says a katan is good, and a woman is not good. If a woman is not good, and androgynous also is not good, maybe he's a woman. And that's a machlokes. We find such a machlokes. My time at Rabbanan. So where did I get it from? The Gemara is going to talk about the source now. So just to back up a little bit, before the kiddush, there's also something about gathering. Vasaf ishtohor esef ha'parah. That after they burnt the paraduma, so it says that you gather the ashes. You gather all the ashes of the paraduma, and then then you bring the water and you do kiddush. So over there, women are allowed to do it. Children are not allowed to do it. Who's kosher to gather? Vasaf ishtohor. Who's kosher to gather the ashes of the paraduma after they burnt it? So a woman is kosher and a child is not. Whatever that's going to be, we're going to say ish is not a katan and a woman is good. And now the question is, when it talks about kiddush afterwards, to do the kiddush, is that talking about the same criteria of the people who gather the ashes or not? I want to say that it's the same criteria. Same way over there, katan is possible and a woman is kosher. So the ones who do the kiddush is the same people. Not the katan, yes, the woman. My time with Rabbanan. It's continuing the parsha. The parsha before talks about gathering the ashes, then talks about putting the ashes onto the water. Whoever's kosher over there is kosher over here. Whoever's possible over there is possible over there. Over there, a katan was possible and a woman was kosher. Same thing continues as far as the kiddush. But Rabbi Yehuda says no. The pasuk is changing subject. Rabbi Yehuda amalacha im kein neim krabalakach ma'ivulakhu dafil hana tepsul and hasam sheren hacha. When it talks about the gathering, it says v'asat ish tahor. It talks about singular. That the Torah man, and we're saying that it means not a katan, yes, a woman. Over there, it says in singular. Then when it gets to the kiddush, the next stage, it says plural lakhu. It doesn't continue v'lakach. If it was v'lakach, then I agree. It would have been talking about the same people. Since it changes to a rabbin, it means even more people that weren't allowed to do it before could do it now. Stephen the katan, who was not allowed to do the asifa, he could do the kiddush. But then the woman also, yachi isha nami. How come you say woman cannot do it? The answer is v'nasan v'lo v'nasna. That this change in the word that it doesn't say it says v'nasan. Allah ma'im chayim. It doesn't say v'nasna. So they were saying that it's coming to exclude a woman. Rabbanan, why did Rabbanan say that's continuing with the same person? It does change the term. If it would have said the same, not gender, how do you say plural or singular? If it would have said the same, I forgot the word in English. If you want to say a word in singular or in plural.
Like that.
if you would have said the same, I need a word that defines singular and plural. Like say gender. Gender means, I'm not saying male or female, it defines gender. Whatever, quantity, good. Quantity, good. Quantity. So if it would have said the same quantity, if it would have said the same singular, before I said it would have continued, I would have thought that the same person who did the gathering has to also do the kiddush. It has to be the same person. Therefore, it says first singular, then it says plural, that even a person who didn't do it could also do it. It doesn't have to be a person who did the asifa. Because that even a different person. Because Rahman of both of them would be in the plural, have amen of the Shakti Trey, Biavi Trey. Also, it has to be the same people. You have to be plural people that did the asifa, plural people that are doing. Because Rahman of Nasan, that feel Shakti Trey, that even if two people get, even if two people of the Valakhu Nasnu, Valakhu is taking not the asifa, but taking the ashes and then putting it onto the water, it doesn't have to be the same people. That was the end. That's one more line on top.
Period.
What is that?
The last word is the period there.
Yes, at the end of the parentheses. And then on the top line, one more line. This is the drash to tell you that you don't have to be Harav Shemesh in order to do the Parah Duma. Even somebody that's a Tful Yom is also kosher. Like the Gemara started off in the beginning, the Sugya mentioned this point that a Tful Yom is kosher because it says that the one who's Torah should sprinkle onto the one that's Tameh. The fact that it says Torah means that he was a bit Tameh. That means that he was a Tful Yom, that he was first Tameh and he became Torah because he went to the mikvah but didn't yet have Harav Shemesh. So that's the end of the Sugya. I'm sorry for going very overtime today. And just to see who's on, Benjamin, Benjamin, and Nissen, I'm sorry for going overtime. Yashikov, thank you.
So where did we end on the second line?
On the second line, I'm Rav Sheshes.
Lemahal Tavo Yom.
It was worth the extra time. Thank you very much.
Thank
I
you,
don't see
thank you.
Omar Rav Sheshes.
Boy, my name Rav Sheshes. Till the end of the second line we got.
Till the end
Well,
of the second.
yeah, till the end of the second line.
And this Tful Yom is,
Shekasher B'Parah.
he's just like, he's a Chaser Harav Shemesh.
Right, right.